Welcome to Silent Crime Case, the podcast that delves into the most perplexing criminal mysteries. In today's episode, we explore the chilling case of Henry Clarke, a successful CFO whose life was tragically cut short by an unknown assailant. Join us as we uncover the shocking truth behind his mysterious death. The victim in this story is Henry Clarke, a 57-year-old successful CFO of Bluestone, one of the largest insurance companies in the state of Virginia. Henry was a pillar of the community, living in a $1.2 million colonial-style mansion in the affluent neighborhood of Dow, Governor's Hill in Richmond, Virginia. Married to Audrey Clarke, a former Miss Massachusetts. For 30 years, Henry relished his role as a devoted father. He had raised 3 children, Alex, Ben, and Claire, all of whom had gone on to attend prestigious Ivy League colleges. Henry was known for his unwavering dedication to his family and his impeccable work ethic. He was a devout Catholic, a generous philanthropist, and a respected leader in his field. He was 57 years old and in the prime of his life. But in January of 2009, Henry's life would take a tragic turn. Henry Clarke would be found dead in his own home, under circumstances that baffled investigators. The once idyllic image of his life would begin to unravel, revealing hidden secrets and complex relationships. Who killed Henry Clarke and why? How did the killer get into his secure home? And how did he escape without leaving any traces? What secrets did Henry hide behind his perfect facade? And what clues did he leave behind? This is the story of Henry Clarke, a man who had everything and lost it all in a matter of seconds. The morning of January 19, 2009, was supposed to be a normal day for Henry Clarke, a 57-year-old CFO of a leading insurance company in Richmond, Virginia. He had woken up early as usual and headed to his home office to check his emails and prepare for a conference call. He had a busy schedule ahead of him, but was looking forward to spending the weekend with his wife Audrey, who was returning from a trip to Boston, to visit her sister. But Henry's plans were abruptly cut short by a deadly intruder. Sometime between 8:00 and 9 a.m., someone entered Henry's office through a broken window on the ground floor of the building. The intruder climbed the stairs to the second floor, where Henry's office was located, and shot him once in the chest with a 9mm handgun. The bullet pierced Henry's heart, killing him instantly. The intruder then fled the scene, leaving behind no clues or motives. Henry's body was discovered by Audrey, who arrived home around 9:30 a.m. She had taken a taxi from the airport as Henry had told her he would be busy and couldn't pick her up. She entered the house through the front door using her spare key and called out for Henry. When she got no answer, she went upstairs to his office thinking he might be on the phone. She opened the door and saw him slumped in his chair, blood staining his shirt. His computer was still on, showing a Word document with some financial figures. She screamed and called 911. The police would arrive within minutes and cordoned off the crime scene, baffled by the motiveless murder of Henry Clarke. Who would want to kill such a successful and beloved person? Was it a random act of violence or a carefully planned assassination? And how did the killer manage to escape without being seen or heard? These were the questions that haunted everyone as they tried to unravel the mystery of Henry's death. As news of Henry Clarke's death spread, the Richmond community was stunned and saddened. Henry was a respected and successful CFO of a major insurance company, as well as a loving husband and father of 3. He had no known enemies or troubles, and his life seemed perfect. Who would want to kill him and why? The police, led by Detective Ryers, George Daniels, were determined to find out. They arrived at Henry's house shortly after his wife Audrey called 911. She had found him dead in his home office, shot in the chest, with his computer still on. She had just returned from a trip to Boston, where she had visited her sister. She told the police that Henry had stayed behind to work and that they had spoken on the phone the night before. She said he sounded normal and happy and that he had no plans to meet anyone that morning. The police searched the house and the office looking for clues. They found no signs of forced entry, except for a broken window on the ground floor near the back door. The window was covered by a curtain, and the police speculated that the killer had used it to enter and exit the building. However, nothing was missing or disturbed. Henry's wallet, laptop, cell phone, and other valuables were all in place. The police also found no fingerprints, DNA, or other traces of the killer. The only piece of evidence they had was the bullet that had killed Henry. It was a 9mm round fired from a handgun. The police ran a ballistics test, hoping to match it to a registered weapon, but the results came back negative. The gun was either unregistered or had been modified to avoid detection. The police interviewed Henry's co-workers, neighbors, friends, and family, hoping to find a motive or a suspect. They learned that Henry was a hard-working and honest businessman who had worked for the same insurance company for over 20 years. He had risen through the ranks to become the CFO, earning a six-figure salary and a reputation for integrity. He had no conflicts or disputes with anyone at work, as far as anyone knew. He was also a devoted family man who had raised 3 children with Audrey, his wife of 30 years. All of his children had graduated from Ivy League colleges and were pursuing their own careers. Henry had a close relationship with all of them and was proud of their achievements. He also had a large circle of friends who described him as generous, kind, and fun-loving. He had no vices or secrets as far as anyone knew. He was a model citizen who had everything to live for. The police were baffled by the seemingly motiveless murder of Henry Clarke. They had no leads, no suspects, no witnesses, just a dead body, a bullet, and a broken window. They had a mystery that defied explanation and a case that would haunt them until it was solved. As the police searched for clues and motives in the murder of Henry Clarke, they turned their attention to his wife, Audrey Clarke. Audrey, a 52-year-old homemaker and mother of 3, had been married to Henry for 30 years. Audrey had supported Henry's career while raising their 3 children, all of whom had followed in their father's footsteps and attended Ivy League colleges. Audrey and Henry seemed to have a happy and stable marriage, with no signs of trouble or infidelity. Audrey had an alibi for the morning of the murder. She had been in Boston visiting her sister, who had recently undergone surgery for cancer. She had flown back to Richmond on the same day, taking a taxi from the airport to her house. She had found Henry's body in his home office and had immediately called 911. She had been hysterical and inconsolable, according to the first responders. She had cooperated with the police and had given them access to her phone, laptop, and bank accounts. She had nothing to hide, she said. But the police had a nagging suspicion that Audrey was not telling the whole truth. They had learned that Henry had a life insurance policy worth $1 million and that Audrey was the sole beneficiary. They had also discovered that Audrey had secretly taken out a second mortgage on their house without Henry's knowledge. She had accumulated a large debt due to her addiction to online gambling. She had been playing poker and slots on various websites such as Poker Stars and Full Tilt Poker, using fake names and credit cards. She had lost thousands of dollars and had been unable to pay back her loans. She had been desperate for money, a way out of her financial troubles. The police confronted Audrey with their findings and asked her to take a polygraph test. Audrey agreed but failed the test miserably. She had lied about her gambling problem and her debt. Audrey Clarke, the seemingly devoted wife and mother, had turned out to be a troubled addict. She had shocked and devastated her family, friends, and community. She became the prime suspect in the case of Henry Clarke's murder. As the police dug deeper into Henry Clarke's life, they uncovered a shocking secret. Henry had another wife. 10 years ago, he had married Jill Evans Clarke, a 51-year-old kindergarten manager from Raleigh, a city about 30 miles away from the Richmond. The police tracked down Jill and confronted her with the evidence of her secret marriage to Henry. Jill was devastated, not only by Henry's death but also by his deception. She had no idea that Henry had another wife and family. She believed that Henry was divorced and that she was his only wife. According to Jill, she had met Henry online on a dating website called eHarmony, where they both lied about their marital status. They fell in love and eloped in Las Vegas, keeping their marriage a secret. They rented an apartment in Raleigh, where they lived together on weekends while Henry worked in Richmond during the week. Jill had 2 children from a previous marriage, whom Henry treated as his own. He had paid for their education, hobbies, and vacations. He had been a loving husband and stepfather. The police interrogated Jill and searched her apartment, but they found no evidence of foul play or any connection to the killer. They verified her alibi for the morning of the murder. She had been at work at the kindergarten, where she had several witnesses. Jill had a clean record and no criminal history. She had no motive or means to kill Henry. Jill Evans Clarke, Henry's second wife, turned out to be an innocent victim of his lies. She had been duped and betrayed by the man she loved, who led a double life. Her story shocked and confused investigators, who now had to look elsewhere for answers. As the investigation into Henry Clarke's murder continued, the police uncovered yet another shocking revelation. Henry had a third wife, Tonya Sanchez, a 22-year-old nursing student at the University of Tachin, Virginia. Tonya and Henry had met at a Starbucks near the campus in September 2008, and they quickly became romantically involved. Henry proposed to Tonya in December, and they eloped to Los Angeles on New Year's Eve. Tonya was blissfully unaware of Henry's other marriages and believed she was his one and only love. According to her, she lived in a small apartment, and Henry would visit her sporadically, telling her he was busy with work. Tonya believed Henry was divorced and that she was his only wife. She also thought Henry was wealthy and that she would inherit his fortune. The police brought Tonya in for questioning at the Richmond Police Department. They asked her about her relationship with Henry, her whereabouts on the day of the murder, and her knowledge of Henry's finances. Tonya was visibly shaken and emotional during the interrogation, insisting that she loved Henry and had nothing to do with his death. She explained that she had been at school attending a biology class, where several witnesses could vouch for her. She also claimed she had no knowledge of Henry's other wives or his financial situation. She was shocked and devastated by the news of Henry's deception. The police checked Tonya's alibi, and it held up. They also searched her apartment but found no evidence linking her to the murder. They couldn't find any connection between Tonya and the killer, but she remained under suspicion as they continued to investigate. The police wondered if Tonya was truly innocent or if she was hiding something more sinister. The case took a surprising turn when the police uncovered a shocking secret on Tonya Sanchez's phone. Tonya, the 22-year-old student, had not been entirely faithful to Henry. She was having an affair with another man, a 23-year-old classmate named Danny Fulton. The police found a series of explicit text messages between Tonya and Danny, revealing that they had been romantically involved since November 2008 after meeting at a local gym. Even more damning were messages suggesting that Tonya and Danny had conspired to kill Henry. One of the texts, dated January 15, 2009, read, "Babe, I can't wait to be with you. Just a few more days and we'll be free. Henry is leaving for a business trip tomorrow. He'll be gone for a week. This is our chance. We have to do it now." Another message from Danny on January 16th read, "I love you, Tonya. I'm ready to do this. I have the gun. I'll be at your place tonight. We'll make it look like a robbery. No one will suspect us. Trust me, baby, we'll be rich and happy." This shocking discovery made it clear that Tonya and Danny were the prime suspects in Henry Clarke's murder. They had planned to kill him and make it appear as a break-in, hoping to cash in on his life insurance policy and estate. They had underestimated the police's ability to trace their phone records and uncover their plot. The police now had a clearer picture of who was behind Henry's murder. They traced Danny Fulton's phone number and confirmed his identity. Danny, a 23-year-old student at the University of Virginia, was a charismatic and charming young man who had quickly won Tonya's affections. But Danny was also ambitious and greedy. He had learned about Henry's wealth through Tonya and decided he wanted a share of it. Manipulating Tonya's emotions, he convinced her to marry Henry, claiming it was the only way to secure her financial future. Danny persuaded Tonya to help him kill Henry, convincing her that Henry was cheating on her and deserved to die. He promised they would run away together after the murder, living a luxurious life off Henry's fortune. On the morning of January 19, 2009, Danny put their plan into motion. He drove to Henry's home in Richmond, armed with a 9mm handgun he had purchased online. Danny found Henry in his home office and shot him once in the chest, killing him instantly. He then fled the scene, leaving no traces behind. After the murder, Danny called Tonya to celebrate their success and looked forward to their future together. However, their future was short-lived. The police traced Danny's phone to his dorm room, where they arrested him. During the search, they found the 9mm handgun hidden under his bed and a plane ticket to Colombia booked for the following day. Danny had planned to flee with Tonya after killing Henry, but his plan had failed, and he was caught. The case of Henry Clarke's murder was finally solved, but the aftermath left a trail of devastation for everyone involved. The case of Henry Clarke's murder reached its climax in the courtroom. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Isabel Reeves, a seasoned and respected lawyer, built a strong case against Danny Fulton, the 23-year-old University of Virginia student who had killed Henry for his money. Reeves presented the evidence of Danny's affair with Tonya Sanchez, Henry's third wife, and their plot to murder him and inherit his fortune. Reeves also showed the jury the explicit text messages between Danny and Tonya, which revealed their motive and method. Reeves argued that Danny was a cold-blooded, greedy killer who had no remorse for his actions. The defense, represented by Stephen Anderson, a renowned and aggressive attorney, attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. Anderson challenged the validity of the phone records, claiming they could have been tampered with. He also suggested that Tonya was the real mastermind behind the murder, and that Danny was a naive, manipulated lover who had been coerced into killing Henry. Anderson appealed to the jury's sympathy, portraying Danny as a young and impressionable man who had made a terrible mistake. The trial lasted for 2 weeks and was closely followed by the public. Henry's family attended every day of the trial, hoping for justice. They had to endure the painful details of Henry's death and the shocking revelations of his double life. They also had to face Danny, the accused killer, who showed no signs of remorse or guilt. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and returned with a verdict. Guilty. Danny Fulton was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge stated that Danny had committed a heinous and premeditated crime, and that he deserved the maximum penalty. Henry's family felt a sense of relief and closure as they watched Danny being escorted out of the courtroom. But they also felt a deep sense of anguish and confusion as they tried to come to terms with Henry's life and death. The murder of Henry Clarke had a profound impact on the lives of all those involved, especially his family, his mistresses, and his killer's accomplice. Audrey Clarke, Henry's first and legal wife of 30 years, struggled to cope with the grief of losing her husband and the shock of discovering his double life. She sought comfort in her children, who were equally devastated by their father's death and betrayal. Audrey also sought help for her gambling addiction, joining a support group for widows, hoping to find peace and forgiveness as she tried to move forward with her life. Tonya Sanchez, Henry's third and youngest wife, faced the consequences of her choices. She had been an accomplice to murder, betraying the man she had married and assisting in his death. Tonya had also been manipulated and used by her lover Danny, who had convinced her to help carry out the crime. After the trial, Tonya returned to her home country of the Columbia, without completing her nursing degree, haunted by regret and remorse for the life she had destroyed and the future she had thrown away. The murder of Henry Clarke shocked and saddened the Richmond community. People had once admired Henry for his success, his devotion to his family, and his contributions to society. But the case revealed a darker side of Henry's life, one filled with secrets, deception, and betrayal. The community grappled with the fact that appearances can be deceiving and that even the most seemingly perfect lives can hide darkness beneath the surface. The case of Henry Clarke also served as a reminder of the destructive power of greed and lust, which can lead to violence and death. The community hoped to learn from the tragedy, striving for greater wisdom, compassion, and vigilance to prevent such crimes from happening again. And so ends another chapter in the Silent Crime Case podcast. The chilling murder of Henry Clarke reminds us that even in the most idyllic lives, darkness can lurk beneath the surface. Join us next time as we delve into another perplexing criminal mystery. Hey, true crime case solvers, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe, true crime case solvers.